DCURA should and firest Hyunteki. The scout ship Horizon Dawn tumbled through the atmosphere of Syrian Prime like a wounded bird, its hull glowing cherry red from the friction. Inside the cramped cockpit, Lieutenant Marcus Chen fought against failing systems, his hands dancing across holographic controls as warning sirens screamed their digital death songs. "Come on, baby, just a little more," Marcus muttered through gritted teeth, wrestling with the manual controls as the ship's AI systems flickered between consciousness and complete failure. The planet's twin moons cast an eerie purple glow across the landscape below, revealing vast crystalline forests that sparkled like frozen lightning. The impact came with surprising gentleness, the ship's emergency dampeners absorbing most of the kinetic energy as it carved a deep furrow through what looked like purple sand dunes. Marcus's world exploded into a kaleidoscope of colors before darkness claimed him. He awoke to silence and the taste of copper in his mouth. Emergency lighting bathed the cockpit in a red glow, and his suit's HUD flickered with damage reports that painted a grim picture. Hull integrity compromised. Life support failing. Communications array destroyed. The diplomatic mission to establish first contact with the Syrian collective had just become the survival scenario. Marcus activated his environmental suit's full protective mode and checked his sidearm. Standard protocol dictated he should remain with the ship and await rescue, but the steadily decreasing oxygen levels suggested that waiting meant dying. Through the cracked view screen, he could see the alien landscape stretching endlessly under the light of two moons. The airlock hissed open, and Marcus stepped onto alien soil for the first time. The gravity was lighter here, about 80% of Earth normal, making each step feel slightly dreamlike. The purple sand crunched beneath his boots with a sound like breaking glass. He had walked barely 100 meters from the crash site when he heard it. A low, keening sound that raised the hair on the back of his neck. It wasn't mechanical, wasn't natural wind. It was pain given voice. Following the sound, Marcus crested a crystalline dune and froze. Below him, in a small depression, lay a figure unlike anything he had seen in the xenobiology briefings. The being was roughly humanoid but stood at least 7 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shift between deep blue and silver depending on the angle of moonlight. 4 arms ended in hands with too many joints, and the face was angular, almost avian, with large eyes that currently remained closed. The alien wore elaborate armor that seemed to be grown, rather than forged organic curves of some chitinous material that gleamed like polished obsidian. But the armor was cracked, green luminescent fluid seeping from multiple wounds. Beside the figure lay a weapon, a spear of impossible beauty, its shaft appearing to be carved from a single piece of crystal, with a blade that hurt to look at directly. Marcus's medical training kicked in, alien or not. This being was dying. He approached cautiously, his hand never straying far from his sidearm. As he knelt beside the wounded warrior, those large eyes snapped open, revealing irises that swirled like liquid mercury. The alien tried to speak, but only managed a wet cough that sprayed luminescent blood across the purple sand. One of its 4 hands weakly gestured toward the crystalline forest in the distance, and Marcus understood. Danger. Something had wounded this warrior, and it was coming. He was reaching for his medical kit when the sand around them erupted. 3 figures burst from concealment, moving with inhuman speed. They were the same species as the wounded warrior, but where the fallen alien's armor was elegant and ceremonial, these wore practical combat gear that writhed with active camouflage. Marcus's hand went to his pistol, but he knew it was futile. These beams moved like quicksilver, their weapons, energy blades that hummed with lethal promise, already sweeping toward him. In that moment of crystalline clarity before death, his eyes fell on the spear. Time seemed to slow as his hand closed around the weapon's shaft. The moment his fingers made contact, the world exploded into sensation. It was like grabbing a live wire, like diving into an ocean of liquid starlight. Information flooded his mind. Not words, but pure understanding. His spear wasn't just a weapon. It was alive, sentient in a way human science couldn't yet comprehend. The first attacker's blade descended, and Marcus moved. Not with his own skill. He was a pilot, not a soldier, but with the inherited muscle memory of 1,000 warriors who had wielded this spear before him. The crystal shaft caught the energy blade, deflecting it with a shower of sparks that looked like newborn stars. The spear sang in his hands, a crystalline note that resonated in his bones. Marcus spun, the weapon becoming an extension of his will, and struck the second attacker's knee. The beam went down with a sound like shattering glass. The third attacker hesitated, just for a moment, but it was enough. Marcus thrust forward, the spear's tip stopping just short of the alien's throat. For a long moment, the tableau held. 3 warriors of an advanced alien race, frozen by the impossible sight of a human wielding their most sacred weapon. Then the standing attacker made a gesture that needed no translation. Surrender. Both conscious attackers grabbed their fallen comrade and retreated, melting back into the landscape like morning mist. Marcus stood there, breathing hard, the spear still humming in his hands. He should have been terrified, should have been overwhelmed by the implications of what had just happened. Instead, he felt a strange sense of rightness, as if he had been meant to hold this weapon all along. A sound behind him made him turn. The wounded warrior was struggling to sit up, those mercury eyes wide with what looked like shock. When the alien spoke, the translator in Marcus's suit struggled with the complex harmonics before rendering the words in English. Impossible, the warrior breathed. You bonded with the soul spear. No off-worlder has ever. The alien coughed again, more blood speckling the sand. The weapon chooses its bearer. It has not chosen anyone in 3 generations. How can it choose a human? Marcus knelt beside the wounded alien, the spear still thrumming with energy in his grasp. I don't understand what happened. I just grabbed it, and then you became something more than human, the warrior finished. Those eyes studied him intently. I am Zareke, first blade of the Crystal Guard. The ones who attacked us, they are traditionalists who believe contact with your species will corrupt our purity. They sought to kill me before I could complete my mission. What mission? Marcus asked, though part of him already knew the answer. To make first contact with humanity, Zareke replied, a bitter smile crossing those angular features. It seems the universe has a sense of irony. You defended me with the very weapon that was meant to be presented to your leaders as a sign of our peaceful intentions. Marcus looked down at the spear in his hands. It felt warm, alive, as if it had a pulse of its own. What happens now? Zareke's expression grew grave. Now, human Marcus Chen, you have become part of something far greater than either of our species intended. The Soul Spear has chosen you as its bearer, by our most ancient laws, that makes you a candidate for the title of champion. And champions shape the destiny of worlds. The twin moons continued their dance across the alien sky as Marcus helped Zareke to her feet. In the distance, the crystalline forest beckoned, promising both danger and destiny. The simple diplomatic mission had become something else entirely, and Marcus could feel the weight of history settling onto his shoulders like a mantle. The spear pulsed in his hand, eager and alive, ready for whatever came next. And despite everything, the crash, the attack, the sheer impossibility of it all, Marcus felt ready too. Sometimes, the universe chose the most unlikely champions. Sometimes, those champions changed everything. The HFY Universe. The journey to the capital city of the Syrian collective took 3 days through the crystalline forests. Marcus supported Zareke's weight as they walked, the alien warrior's injuries healing at a rate that defied human medical understanding. The Soul Spear served as both walking staff and guardian, its presence seeming to ward off the native predators that Marcus occasionally glimpsed between the prismatic trees. As they traveled, Zareke explained the significance of what had occurred. The Soul Spear was more than a weapon. It was a judge of character, a living artifact that had been passed down through millennia of Syrian history. Each time it chose a new bearer, that individual became a candidate for the position of champion, a role that transcended mere military or political power. Champions are the bridge between what was and what will be, Zara K. explained as they rested beside a stream of liquid that looked like flowing mercury, but was apparently safe to drink. They appear at pivotal moments in our history, when great change is needed. The last champion unified our world after the great fragmentation. Before that, a champion led us to the stars. Marcus processed this information while the spear hummed softly in his hands. And now it's chosen a human. That can't be sitting well with your people. Zarakay's laugh was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. That is perhaps the understatement of the millennium. The traditionalists were already opposed to contact with humanity. Now they will see this as proof that your species seeks to conquer us through our own traditions. But that's not what happened, Marcus protested. I was just trying to help you. Intent matters little in politics, Zarakay replied. But the Soul Spear's choice is absolute. Even the most traditional among us cannot deny its judgment. However, you must prove yourself worthy of the title. The 7 trials await. On the morning of the 4th day, they crested a hill of purple glass and saw the capital city spread below them. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The city was a wonder of organic architecture, buildings that seemed to have been grown rather than built, spiraling toward the sky in impossible helixes. At the center stood a vast arena, its crystal walls catching and refracting the light of the twin suns in a constant rainbow display. As they approached the city's outskirts, word of their coming preceded them. Citizens lined the streets, tall, graceful beings with their color-shifting skin and multiple arms. Some looked at Marcus with wonder, others with barely concealed hostility. All stared at the soul spear in his hands with expressions of awe. An escort of crystal guards met them at the city's edge, their armor gleaming like captured starlight. They formed a protective corridor through which Marcus and Zarakay passed, making their way toward the central arena. The journey felt like walking through history itself, past buildings that had stood for thousands of years, under archways that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. The council of voices awaited them in the arena's preparation chambers. 7 ancient Xyrians, their skin now more silver than blue, their movements carrying the weight of centuries. They studied Marcus with eyes that had seen the birth of stars. So spoke the central figure, her voice carrying harmonics that made Marcus's bones resonate. The Soul Spear has chosen an outsider. This is unprecedented. Unprecedented but not forbidden. Zarakay interjected, standing tall despite her healing injuries. The ancient laws are clear. Any who can bond with the Soul Spear may undertake the trials. Another council member leaned forward. The trials were designed for Xyrian physiology, Xyrian understanding. How can an alien comprehend challenges meant to test the very essence of our being? Marcus stepped forward, the spear pulsing with his determination. With respect, I don't need to be Xyrian to understand courage, wisdom, or sacrifice. These concepts exist across species, across worlds. If the Soul Spear believes I'm worthy to attempt the trials, shouldn't we trust its judgment? The council members exchanged glances, communication passing between them in ways Marcus couldn't perceive. Finally, the central figure nodded. The human speaks truth. The trials will commence at dawn. Success means acceptance as champion. Failure means death. Zarakay finished quietly. That night, as the city prepared for the spectacle to come, Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the arena. The Soul Spear rested in his hands, its crystalline surface reflecting the light of strange stars. He thought about Earth, about the mission that had brought him here, about the cosmic joke that had turned a simple pilot into a candidate for alien championhood. Zarakay joined him, her injuries now almost completely healed. Are you afraid? Marcus considered the question. Terrified, he admitted. But also ready? Does that make sense? More than you know, Zarakay replied. The spear chooses those who are needed, not those who are perfect. Tomorrow, you will face challenges that test every aspect of your being: physical prowess, mental acuity, emotional resilience, spiritual understanding. The trials adapt to each candidate, becoming what they need to be to forge a true champion. Dawn came too soon, painting the crystal city in shades of rose and gold. The arena was packed with spectators, a sea of color-shifting faces all turned toward the central platform where Marcus stood. The soul spear thrummed with anticipation. The first trial tested physical prowess. Marcus faced a construct of living crystal, a golem that moved with fluid grace and struck with mountain-shattering force. But the spear guided him, not just as a weapon but as a teacher. Each movement became a lesson in Syrian martial philosophy, each dodge and strike a step in an ancient dance. When the construct finally shattered, Marcus understood it hadn't been about defeating an enemy. It had been about harmonizing with an opponent. The second trial challenged his perception. The arena filled with illusions, each more convincing than the last. Marcus had to navigate a maze where reality itself was questionable, where every step could lead to triumph or disaster. The spear became his anchor, its unwavering truth cutting through layers of deception until he reached the center of the labyrinth. By the third trial, testing emotional resilience, the crowd had grown silent. Marcus faced manifestations of his deepest fears: the disappointment of his superiors, the failure of his mission, the loss of his humanity in this alien arena. But the spear pulsed with memories not his own, showing him the fears that every champion had faced and overcome. He was not alone in his doubts, and in that shared vulnerability, he found strength. The fourth trial delved into wisdom. Ancient Syrian philosophers materialized as holograms, posing paradoxes that had stumped their greatest minds for millennia. Marcus approached each question not with human logic or Syrian tradition, but with a synthesis of both. His answers, filtered through the understanding the spear had granted him, bridged two cultures in ways neither had imagined possible. As the fifth trial began, testing creativity and innovation, murmurs rippled through the crowd. No candidate had ever made it this far on their first attempt. Marcus was presented with a shattered artifact, a device whose purpose had been lost to time. Working with the spear as both tool and advisor, he didn't just repair it. He reimagined it, creating something new that honored the old while embracing future possibilities. The sixth trial pushed the boundaries of sacrifice. Marcus was shown visions of two futures, one where he returned to Earth as a hero, his mission completed, his place in human history secured. The other showed him remaining among the Syrians, serving as a bridge between species, but forever separated from his own kind. The choice seemed impossible until he realized the truth. Real sacrifice wasn't about choosing between two goods, but about finding a third path that served the greater purpose. His answer, using the spear to project his thoughts, proposed a rotating ambassadorship, where the champion would spend time among both species, belonging fully to neither but serving both. The seventh and final trial was the simplest and most profound. Marcus stood before a mirror of polished crystal, but the reflection showed not his human form but his potential, what he could become as champion. The trial was acceptance, not of power or prestige, but of responsibility, of the weight of being a bridge between worlds, of the loneliness of standing between two peoples while belonging completely to neither. Marcus gripped the soul spear and spoke words that rang through the arena and would echo through history. I accept not what I am, but what I must become. I accept not for glory, but for purpose. I accept the burden of understanding, the weight of connection, the price of unity. I am human. I am friend to Xyrian. I am champion. The arena erupted. The soul spear blazed with light that seemed to pierce dimensions themselves. When the radiance faded, Marcus still stood there, fundamentally changed. The spear had bonded with him completely now, its crystalline structure bearing new patterns that combined human and Syrian motives in ways that hurt the mind to contemplate. The council of voices rose as one. The trials are complete. The Soul Spear has not just chosen, it has been transformed. Marcus Chen, you entered this arena as a lost pilot from a distant world. You leave it as the first interspecies champion in the history of the Xerian Collective. May you guide us wisely into this new age. Zeraka approached, pride and something deeper shining in her mercury eyes. You have done the impossible, Marcus. You have become the bridge our peoples didn't know they needed. Marcus looked out over the crowd, seeing not just aliens but future allies, not just strangers but people he was now sworn to serve alongside his own species. The weight of it should have been crushing. Instead, it felt like coming home to a purpose he'd never known he was meant for. The Soul Spear pulsed with warm contentment in his hands. The real work was just beginning. Treaties to negotiate, cultures to bridge, suspicions to overcome. But for the first time since his ship had crashed on this impossible world, Marcus felt exactly where he was supposed to be. Sometimes the universe chose its champions through chance encounters and desperate circumstances. Sometimes a simple pilot became the linchpin of interstellar destiny. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most unlikely champion was exactly the one the galaxy needed. The twin suns of Xerian Prime set in a blaze of purple and gold, heralding not an ending but a beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities, new hopes for two species learning to reach across the stars toward understanding. Marcus Chen, humanity's first alien champion, was ready to meet them all.